Hello everyone, and welcome to the CircuitPython Weekly for October 21st, 2019. I am Katney. I am sponsored by Adafruit to work on CircuitPython. CircuitPython is a version of Python that runs on microcontrollers, which are tiny computers. CircuitPython development is sponsored by Adafruit, so please support them by purchasing hardware from adafruit.com. This meeting is an opportunity that we have every week to get together and talk about what's going on with the CircuitPython project, what's going on with the community, and to hear from you and what's going on with you. We get together at typically on Mondays at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific time. If that changes, we will let you know. This meeting is recorded and it is hosted on Discord. So if you want to join the meeting, you can go to adafru.it/discord. We are also there all week. The recording is both audio and the Discord text chat in the CircuitPython channel. And we are there all week. So if you have any questions during the week or you just want to chat outside the meeting, you can also go to Discord, and we are usually around. This will be released on YouTube, and also we release it as a podcast. So if you are more into podcasts, it's also available there. And if for whatever reason it's not available on your favorite podcast service, please let us know so we can fix that. This meeting is held in 5 parts. The first part is community news, which is a overview of what's going on with Python on hardware in the community. The next is the state of CircuitPython and the libraries, which is a statistical overview of the entire project. After that, we have Hug reports, which is an opportunity to call people out for what good things they're doing. That will be held in a round robin where I will start, and then we'll go down the list alphabetically, giving everyone a chance to either talk, or we'll read off from the notes if people add things to the notes, and give everyone a chance to call someone out if they want to do that. The next section is status updates, which is everyone is also run as a round robin, and everyone takes a couple minutes to talk about what they've been doing over the last week since the last meeting, and what they will be doing over the next week until the next meeting. And then the very last section we lovingly call In the Weeds, which is an opportunity for more long-form discussions, looking for any kind of answers to bigger questions. Things that don't quite fit into status updates can go in the weeds. If at any point in time during the meeting you come up with something for In the Weeds, please post it to the CircuitPython text chat, or post it to, even better, into the notes document. And then we will get to it when we get to In the Weeds, and that way we're not waiting around to see if anyone comes up with anything. There was something else, and I have promptly forgotten what I was going to say. So with that, I guess I will go ahead and kick it over to Phil for community news.
All right. Hello, Katney.
Hello.
Okay, here we go, everybody. Happy Open Source Hardware Month. We have 21 posts so far because there's 21 days. We've been doing a post a day all month. So you'll see some familiar favorites, some companies, some people, all that. Going to get to some more open source hardware with Python towards the end of the month. It's a grand finale, I guess. And we'll also have Michael Weinberg on our show next week. So it's the day before Halloween, so it'll be scary. It'll be completely scary good about open source hardware. So that's next week. Next up, congratulations, all of us. We have 81 boards on circuitpython.org/downloads. And see, Grover, congratulations, you're board 81 with the string car M0 Express download. I've been watching this project for a long time. I cannot wait to have a string car zip across Adafruit here. I got a Kickstarter that you put a camera on, like a zip line thing. It didn't really work out, so I'm hoping this was going to work out. I want to put a little CircuitPython thing on a string and maybe like put a camera on it or something and show that. So I'm looking forward to that board and more. Next up, thanks to Brent for noticing this. Amazon, you know them, all their documents that they have for some of the Raspberry Pi Linuxy stuff now uses Blinka. So CircuitPython snakes its way to Amazon, AWS. The headlines write themselves. So that's kind of neat to see Blinka in more places doing more things. You can also go to circuitpython.org/Blinka, see all the boards supported and more. Speaking of, Kenny will probably talk about this later. This is a new section. We have circuitpython.org/library/contributing. You can check that out and you can see all the ways you can contribute. And we have a bunch of tabs where it shows the open issues, authors, and more. It's a new section. Go check it out. Next up. I covered this last week and also in our newsletter and on our site. Folks over at PyCon India made a really fantastic Circuit Python poster that it itself is made with CircuitPython. So we have that in the newsletter. Going to put it up on the blog. Check it out. There's a lot of people who like to do projects like this at events, or they might be educators. And then you can just look at this video, follow it along, and make a poster of your own. Kind of like a science fair with Blinka. For all y'all out there who have Macs and upgraded to Catalina, I have a couple machines here at Adafruit for testing. Can't use it on my daily yet because I have apps that aren't supported. However, for the test machine that we have, we wanted to see how easy it would be to put Bluefruit on Catalyst, which allows you to take an iOS app and make it into a Mac app, and it worked perfectly. So it's kind of neat to be using some of our new CircuitPython powered hardware like Circuit Playground, Bluefruit Express, and within 10 minutes, it took longer to download Xcode than it took to use Catalyst. So check that out. And special guest Colin, for the Colin fans out there. PyDev of the Week, Sophie Wong. This was neat because one of my favorite sites is Mouseverse Python, and now Sophie's on there, so you can look at Sophie's work, some of the things that Sophie has done with CircuitPython and Python, and her projects and more. Next up, he made another library. I think I'm going to call this Tia's Library of the Week because it's on been on a great pace. This is the Winterbloom Voltage IO. It lets you set output voltage to your DACs instead of having to do the math to calculate voltage every single time. Also lets you do the reverse for ADCs. Check that out. That'll also be in the newsletter. And then this is kind of neat. Some educators have been posting up how they're using Circuit Playground, CircuitPython in the world. And this is from Mike Pitcher, Director of Academic Technologies at the University of Texas at El Paso, and an Apple Distinguished Educator. They have a bunch of MacBook over there, and all of them have Circuit Playgrounds attached to them. So they're able to do cool stuff like code Python and have them just work. Okay. Other things, there's so much news this week, so you're going to have to check out some of it. You can see it in drafts. This is what the team is up to right now. So if you wanted to check out what Dan and Katney and Jepler and Lucian and other folks are doing on the team, we have a whole section there. Brian always has photos, so that's good if you want to see some of the pictures from his desk. And last up, thank you everyone who's been doing contributions to the newsletter. It's a monster to do. It's like publishing a newsletter, magazine, TV show every single week. We're getting more and more contributions, which is good. So please continue to do that. And also you can also add yours at any time. You can open up an issue. You can do a PR. You can email PT at Adafruit. You can put it in Discord. Owls. You can have an owl show up here with it. And that is the community news for this week.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
All right. So next up is the state of CircuitPython and the libraries. This is a statistical overview of the health of the entire project. We take a look at the project overall, and then we discuss the core and the libraries separately to get a better idea of what's going on with each. So the first thing we will discuss is the project overall. We had 64 pull requests merged, which is huge. There is a reason for that I will cover in a bit here. And 18 authors, which is, I think, easily the most that we've had. And that's pretty much amazing. I'm really excited about that. There's a few names on here I don't recognize. Senuros, CamTom480, reading through. I think that's all the names. I think everyone else has contributed before, and there's a few names who are new-ish contributors within the last couple weeks, so thank you to everyone who's been joining us. And we had 8 reviewers on those 64 pull requests, which is also excellent. Thank you to everyone who's reviewing. We had 20 issues closed by 11 people and 9 opened by 8 people. And 1 new issue was assigned the Hacktoberfest label, which means we did identify 1 new issue as a good first issue, which is excellent. The Hacktoberfest stuff obviously will stop once October is over. However, I think getting into the habit of identifying issues as good first issues is something that we want to stick with so that we can continue to bring new people in and have opportunities for them to discover themselves more easily than if we are digging through stuff to say, hey, here I found this one hidden thing that you are able to do. So definitely let's keep that up even after Hacktoberfest concludes. So overall, we're still working on getting the changes to the BLE API in the core completed. It's getting very close. We're getting to a point where there's going to be PRs put in, reviews done, testing needed, that sort of thing. So definitely keep an eye out for that and test where you can. And let us know how things go with that. With the libraries, we're seeing all kinds of new stuff, including new libraries being submitted by community members, upgrades to libraries, so on and so forth. There's been a lot of activity there. And so thank you to everyone who's been involved on all sides. And with that, I will go ahead and kick it over to Scott to talk about the core.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. For the core, we had 12 pull requests merged from 9 different authors. Kickbutts, CamTom480, our new Senuros is also new on this list. So thanks to the new folks and the other 6 folks who were pull request authors. We had 3 reviewers, Dan, myself, and Arturo. So thank you to all of those folks. That leaves us with a total of 9 open pull requests. A couple are new within the last few days, but the rest are kind of old and will need to be looked at and figured out if we want to keep them. Issues wise, we had 6 closed issues by 2 people and 3 opened by 3 people, so we're net down 3, which is awesome. None of the new issues got labeled for Hacktoberfest, and we have 194 total open issues with 7 active milestones. Most of those issues are 151 of them are marked long term, so those are the ones that are kind of like very much on the back burner and we will not get to them. And we have 17 issues not assigned a milestone as well. So those are the ones that we need to triage, particularly before we do any sort of stable release, which is actually not going to be anytime soon because we're very much in the alpha phase. Downloads wise, we have 4.10 is our stable release, and our unstable release is 5.0 alpha 4. We've had 13,884 downloads on the stable release and just over 3,000 on the unstable release. We do recommend if people are feeling adventurous, try out the unstable release. There's some really good stuff in there, so I recommend people check that out. And if you're curious about the difference in download counts by language, check out the note stock and take a look at it in there. And that's it for the core.
Thanks, Scott. All right, now we can talk about the libraries. So we had 52 pull requests merged, which is huge. And I'm going to do this a little out of order. We have 194 open pull requests, which that number is down. The reason for that is we have a new person working with us at Adafruit, Dylan, who is in this meeting. And we asked Dylan to update the READMEs on all the libraries to remove some confusing content and add some missing content. And so we have open PRs over the last week on every single library. So that is why those numbers are so big. But I want to say thank you to the 9 authors of the 52 that have been merged, because those are not only Dylan's PRs. So that's really excellent. Thank you to everyone who's been contributing to the libraries. We had 6 reviewers. Like I said, 194 open PRs. There are still, just glancing at it, probably 30 that are older, and as with the core, need to be triaged to determine what we want to do with those. But a lot of these are the more recent ones. We had 14 issues closed by 10 people and 6 opened by 6 people. So we are also net down, and we had 1 good first issue identified, which is excellent. We have 146 open issues. And as mentioned before, circuitpython.org/libraries/contributing is now updated daily. So that information is a good place to, it's a good resource now. It's now valid, it's now up to date. So it's a way to keep track of everything. And if you're interested in contributing, that is the place to go. We will be restructuring the where it's located on the site within the next 2 days. So you will be able to get to it from the header directly. Contributing will be its own link, and you won't have to go directly to the URL or dig into the library's page to find it. So we're going to start utilizing that more so as a resource to keep track of all of our PRs, to triage the PRs that we're figuring out whether we want to keep, and as a place to send people who want to start contributing. And that way we have, because at the moment there really wasn't, until we did that, there really wasn't a central location with all this information in it that was kept up to date in any reasonable manner. So we have a number of new libraries this week, which is excellent, and a number of updated libraries, which obviously as we finish up the README update project, that list is going to be massive next week. But it's fairly big this week, and so I will not read it off. And that is where we are at with the libraries. Next up is Hug Reports. Hug Reports is an opportunity to call people out for doing something good. We do this every week. We like to recognize people for the things that they're doing, and we like to give everyone a chance to recognize anyone that's doing something great for them or for the community. We pulled this from an Adafruit internal meeting section because we really liked the concept. It will go as a round robin, starting with me. We'll go down the list alphabetically and then loop to the top and start over. If there are people who have notes in the notes document, I will read them off as we get to them. There are some people who aren't in the meeting who put notes in, so I'll read those. And if you are text only, don't have a mic, don't want to talk, you can either post your notes to the CircuitPython channel or put them in the notes doc, and I will read them off as we go. So I will get started. First and foremost, hug report to Thea, who is Stargirl on Discord, for being so patient and helpful. Every time I'm popping back into the CircuitPython channel or the Help with CircuitPython channel, I find Thea going through data sheets for people, giving them far more information than I think they ever hoped to get. And it's just amazing to watch. So thank you so much for joining us on Discord and then just jumping in headfirst and being absolutely amazing. I want to give a hug report to Crayola for explaining binary, hex, and bitwise operations to me and helping me with some driver code. A hug report to Sedacious for giving me some good examples to refer to for a particular driver I was working on and for helping me understand the code better. And finally, a hug report to D. Harada, Dylan, for joining us at Adafruit. welcome. And it's already been great working with you so far. You're doing an amazing job. And I know you will keep it up. So thank you very much. Next up, I have someone in the notes. Crayola says your usual group hug. And then we have someone lurking, and that means next up is Maker Melissa.
Hello. First of all, a hug to Hirata for making your Hacktoberfest PR count and then some. And group hug to everyone.
Excellent. All right, next up I have someone in the notes as well. Sedacia says, Dylan for slogging through a mountain of library updates with aplomb and for joining Adafruit. Belatedly to Dan C., who's Cogliano on Twitter and GitHub, as well as Stargirl and Thea for their first CircuitPython drivers. And to Kattni for diving back into Driverland. Stargirl is lurking but has a group hug in the notes, which brings us to Summersoft, who also is unable to attend but has notes, and that is also a group hug, which means next up is Scott.
Hello. First and foremost, hug to Sonoros for adding to the German translations. They've made 2 PRs so far and have been mostly just filling in translations that we just didn't have to begin with. So thanks to them for that. Thanks to Kattni for covering the meeting for me for the next few weeks. I'll get into all the details of me not being around, aka on vacation, a little bit later. But thanks to Kattni in advance and everybody for being accommodating to that. Thank you to PT. I think it goes largely unnoticed, and that's kind of what hug reports are all about. But PT puts a ton of time and hours into doing the newsletter every week and finding all the content that goes in there. So I just wanted to give Phil a hug report for that. It's a huge, very handy newsletter, and we are getting some more people contributing, but like Phil does the bulk of the work. So thanks to Phil for putting in that time every weekend and making the newsletter awesome. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to adafruitdaily.com and you can sign up for the Python on Microcontrollers newsletter. It goes out Tuesday morning and is chock full of a lot of good stuff. I had this big long list. I was going through my Discord history, and there's just a ton of people helping in the help with CircuitPython channel, and I wanted to call or thank some of those folks. So in no particular order, Anecdata, Carter, Jerry, Cascade, Thea, Dan, Kattni, Jepler, Deshipu, and others I'm sure I missed. Thank you all for helping folks in the Help with CircuitPython channel. It's awesome to see that happen. And then lastly, I wanted to say both welcome and a thank you to D. Harada for coming on board and doing a bunch of library jockeying and stuff. And also thank you to Kattni and Sedacious for doing the mentoring on that side. So thank you to everybody.
All right, excellent. So next up, I have Anecdata, who's text only. And that is a hug report to Brent for ongoing support and guidance on the Nina firmware and general dev environment issues. Anne is lurking. Brent, I have notes for, who also is not currently in the meeting, which is group hug. So next up, I think C. Grover had a hug report, but was potentially text only, but I never saw it posted. So I'm not seeing that. All right, so if that gets posted later, we will come back to that. So next up is Code and Solder, who's text only today. And we got a list here. To PT for helping a lot with PyCon India interactive poster presentation. To Kattni with helping for the TC74 library request issue creation. To JP for Grand Central USB MIDI controller tutorial. To Kattni for rotary controller tutorial, a rotary encoder tutorial rather. And to Kattni, Lady Ada, Dan, and JP for the PyBadge business card tutorial. All right, and I'm going to loop back to C. Grover here, who said, the string car M0 made it to CircuitPython.org. Big hug to everyone who inspired and encouraged this project. Over the past 5 years, the support has been incredible. The support of the incredible Adafruit community supercharged my learning and growth, coming back to hardware and software design after a 35-year absence. By the way, the M4 proto controller design is done and should be heading off to Osh Park this week. Excellent. Which means we are up to Dan.
Hello. So I just have one. D. Harada started doing work on CircuitPython stuff, and he made something. I don't know. It seemed like 100. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but PRs. We had a bunch of fixes we needed for a lot of the libraries, and they were churned out in incredible fashion. My mailbox filled up, and they're being knocked off now. So, but I was quite impressed by that. So thanks very much for that, Dylan.
Excellent.
Okay.
So next up is Dylan.
All right. So according from what I found on my GitHub, it seems like actually it was 97, which doing them manually was kind of crazy. But yeah. So hug report to Sedacious and Katney for mentoring me and answering all of the very many questions I've had. And extra hug report to Sedacious for making sure I use all the right vocabulary instead of just calling everything either a variable or function. Hug report to Anne for helping me get set up on Basecamp, Slack, Learn, and everything else, and helping the numerous issues I was having. And a group hug to everyone for welcoming.
Excellent. Next up is Higher Effect. I do not hear you. Okay. We'll come back because I have someone in the notes. So I have Jason P. in the notes who had needed to leave the meeting early. And that is a hug report to Talk, Jerry, and Tan Newt for quick particle argon bootloader support. And now we can loop back to Higher Effect.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Yeah, so this week hug report. Thanks to Dan for helping me out with some kind of obscure IRQ material, interrupt related stuff kind of deep in the STM32 port. And a quick hug to all others.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Next up is Jeff.
Hi, everybody. I just have a general group hug, and then I also want to give a special welcome hug to Dylan. I hope you enjoy working with all of us, and I hope I get a chance to work with you directly sometime soon.
Excellent. And next up is Jerry.
Hi, it's the group hug and a special shout out to Brent. Good luck with the exams this week.
All right. Thank you very much. And that is hug reports. So that means next up is status updates. Status updates is an opportunity for everyone to talk about what they've been doing since the last meeting, talk about what they're going to do until the next meeting. And it's also an opportunity for other people to give you tips and tricks on something you're working on. Anything that turns into a long form discussion is probably better suited to In the Weeds. So if we hit that point, we can easily move something to In the Weeds, or if you already know that one of your questions is more of an In the Weeds topic, please let us know and or put it in the notes document. Status updates is held as a round robin, the same as hug reports. I will start. We'll go down the list alphabetically. I will read off people in the notes, and then we will continue on from the top. So like I said, there's a number of people who did not attend who have notes in the document, and I'll read them off alphabetically as we go. So be prepared for the possibility of there being people who aren't in the meeting being between you and the next alphabetical person on the list. So let's see, last week I blogged a bunch of new and updated guides. I tested some stuff on the Raspberry Pi, the MAX 31856, the ADXL 345, and Pixie LEDs. There was a lot of miscellaneous, helping spin up Dylan, working on the circuitpython.org/library/contributing page, that sort of thing. And I spent the last half of the week implementing the advanced features on the MCP 9600 driver that we had submitted by a community member, and I began documenting the driver. This week, I need to finish documenting the driver. I need to test it on Raspberry Pi. I was told if it doesn't work to immediately seek assistance because it's not my fault, and apparently it's just weird at times. So then I need to update the MCP 9600 guide with CircuitPython and Python usage, presuming it works on the Raspberry Pi. And then after that, we're going to be continuing the Raspberry Python project. The list in the notes is out of order because since I started with Pixies, which use UART, we're going to continue doing UART stuff because it's all similar, and so we figure we'll just get through UARTs and be done with those. So the last 4 in the list are the ones that I will be starting with. And then we're also going to be moving circuitpython.org/library/contributing to the header page. And so I may be having circuitpython.org/contributing be a top level link as well. But I'm going to discuss that later with Justin. So that's on my list of things to do, and that will easily get me to the end of the week. And if it doesn't, we have many more things to do. So next up, I have someone in the notes who is not in the meeting. Crayola says, last week managed to get pixel buff subclassing to work properly. Finally found the spot I needed to modify to make it possible to call a non-native subclass method during subscr. Got slices with step greater than 1 working. And next week, native show and iterable support in pixel buff. And next up is Maker Melissa.
Hello. Okay. So last week I finished updating the guide pages for Python RGB display. Finished updating the CircuitPython EPD guide to work with display.io. I created a unified display.io example for the page and tested it on each display. I created a Python EPD page, which is mostly a version of the old EPD page. And with some updates for the Raspberry Pi, and I reviewed a few PRs. This week, I'm going to work on a new guide for the 1.14-inch TFT breakout. Get some examples spun up for it in probably like Arduino and CircuitPython. And then whatever else comes up.
Excellent. So next up, I have in the notes a couple people here. Sedacious says, last week, LSM 303 driver dismemberment and Frankensteining. MPU 6050 tester prototyping and code development. Bus.io bug hunting. This week, LSM AGR, magnetometer, Bus.ioification, guide update and old driver retirement. LPS 33 bring up and testing. More automation fun with improved safety measures. Ow, my feet hurt. Next, I have Summersoft in the notes. Last week, Rosy Pi stuff, Adafruit Python platform detect. I plan on using Blinka on Rosy Pi, but I discovered that it doesn't do well detecting Raspberry Pi versions when running a non-Raspbian OS, Blinka issue number 99. I've got an RFC PR in to address this. Next week, Adafruit Blinka, try to get it installing on non-Raspbian Raspberry Pi. It fails on RPi WS281X install, and whatever comes up is suggested or I stumble upon. We also have Stargirl in the notes, who says last week released a new library, Winterbloom Voltage IO. started working on lower level MIDI library for my projects. This week, continuing to write libraries such needed by my Eurorack module. And next up is Scott.
Hello. Last week I was focusing on getting the connections working. So in my BLE work, I unified central and peripheral into this notion of a connection. Turns out like once you've connected, like it's very symmetric. So that's why it's kind of unified there. I got the UART client and server server demos going again. So the UART Echo demo works with this new way. It definitely separates the notion of advertising from having a connection a bit more. But I think that's a good thing because advertising on its own is pretty powerful. I was trying to get HID working, but I wasn't able to get it kind of working. There was a pairing dance that I think was throwing me off and slowing me down a bit as well. The big news is that like I'm going on vacation. It's kind of last minute, but my wife got a new job in a few weeks, and before she kind of like has limited vacation time, we're taking the time off before then. So I'm gone starting on Wednesday for a whole week. So I get back next Wednesday. I'm around for like 4 days. Yeah, the new job's at Google, so it should be really, really good. But she starts only getting 3 weeks vacation, so now's the time to get away. So I'm around for like 4 days, and then I leave on the next Monday for a week-long trip to Florida as well. So basically, the next 4 weeks I'm kind of off and on around for a while, because even after she starts her job, I'm going to LA for SuperCon, which is going to be super fun. I'm planning on crashing JP's workshop on that Thursday, the 14th of November. And then I have a presentation. I have 2 presentations that week, one on Tuesday and one Tuesday before I leave, and then one on Sunday as well. So the gist is that I'm kind of disappearing for a little while because I'm going on vacation, which will be really good. I've got two kind of things that I have to get done before I leave. I've got like the core side of the BLE work that I've been doing and the library side, and I have to basically do a bunch of polish. So my goal is before I fly out on Wednesday is to get 2 PRs going with Dan, doing the reviews on that, and then I will bring enough stuff that I can kind of like tweak things based on the review feedback while I'm away, but that's the only work that I'm planning on doing. So yeah, that's where I'm at, is getting all this BLE stuff polished up enough that we could get it in. We may not actually support absolutely everything we currently do. Like I was having some trouble with HID, but it should be a much better foundation for like having a catalog of services that we support and things like that. So I'm excited about it, and yeah, it's been a lot of work, but it'll be good to get it out there and see what people do with it. So shout out to Dan for really stepping up and helping with that. So that's where I'm at.
Excellent. Thanks, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Brent. Are you still text only?
I can jump in for a second.
Oh, excellent.
This past week, I released the AWS IoT Planter Guide. Along with that, I released the AWS IoT, a lot of acronyms, CircuitPython library, and the updated data firmware. And we have updated build instructions along with updated how to update instructions on learn.adafruit.com as well. The next 2 weeks, I'm deep in exam season, and I'll be on and off. My availability is going to be kind of sporadic, but I'm working on some really exciting non-CircuitPython things that will materialize by the end of the year.
Excellent. Thanks, Brent. Next up, I have Code and Solder in the notes, text only. Last week, PyCon India interactive poster demo was a big success, and people were really curious to see PyBadge. They loved business card program running on it, and 150 Blinka stickers disappeared in 7 minutes during the conference. This week, writing a library for the TC74 temp sensor and a secret project involving photography, MIDI, and CircuitPython. Next up is Dan.
Okay, so I've been working on BLE bonding, but there are some prerequisites for that. I needed some kind of way to store the bonding information internally. So I was originally going to use a different kind of file system besides FAT internally, and then I was going to use something just FAT, and it turned out that was all rather complicated. And so I'm just going to use a block of flash memory on chip to do that. We already have a mechanism for doing that, code to do that, which is the microcontroller.nvm mechanism. But in setting that up, another instance of that block, I ran into some issues having to do with specifying where it was, which is sort of specified in the linker script and could be specified elsewhere. And I found that there were many places, there were many regions of flash of various sizes, and they were defined in many different places. And the linker script, it's only by convention and by careful checking of all the sizes that the linker script knows the sizes of anything. So you can change the size of something the linker script won't know, and you'll end up building something that won't work or will crash later. It would be better if it were all parameterized. So I figured out a way of parameterizing the linker script. These are the .ld files. And I'm working on cleaning that up right now, and we'll maybe have a PR for that soon. And this means that we reduce the number of linker scripts to maybe 1 for each port instead of like 12 right now. This is all very in the weeds, but it's like another piece of refactoring like the one I did before, where I made it easy to turn modules on and off. It's kind of in the same vein of that. And then I'm probably going to put that on hold a little bit if I don't finish it really soon, so that I can review Scott's BLE changes. And while he's on vacation, I'll maybe test the libraries and revise any remaining things that need to be revised, so we can start writing guides using the new API instead of the old API. Okay.
All right, thanks. We had someone lurking, and then I have Dylan's notes, who needed to leave the meeting. Last week, officially started my internship at Adafruit. Manually made 197 PRs to remove the building locally section and add installing from PyPI section, and didn't realize I should have automated it until far too late. Played around with the BNO055 and ended up reorganizing it a bit. Fixed a really weird Sphinx indentation issue with a PR in the FrameBuff library that I originally encountered at PyCon. This week, updating a bunch of guides to give instructions on installing Arduino libraries with the Arduino Library Manager. Which means next up is Hierophect. And once again, I can't hear you. Okay, we will come back to Hierophect. Let's go ahead and move on. Hold on a second. Let's go ahead and move on to Jeff.
Hello again.
Hi.
I feel like I'm still catching up on my life and my day job, and CircuitPython is a little bit in the back seat at the moment. There are audio issues out there for me to investigate if I find times on the evening or weekend. And like I mentioned while we were between recordings, I'm looking forward to meeting with my local maker group tonight. And if you want to see pictures from my vacation, you can DM me and I'll send you a link to my Google Photos album. It was a good time, but it was took a lot of energy to do.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right. Next up is Jerry.
Hi. Last week I was away a bit, so didn't get too much done, but I did find a tiny little PR to put in to fix an incompatibility on CircuitPython for the odd case of building Ubuntu under Ubuntu on a Raspberry Pi. It does work. I'm still having the same issue that Summersoft is struggling with, so looking forward to seeing if he resolves it or if we can come up with something. Still not completely convinced how much effort all this is worth, because Raspbian Buster works great. So I'm not sure I'll use the Ubuntu version very much, but it's kind of nice to make it work. Coming up this week, I've been trying to find, I've ran across a thing, there's a PyPortal demo called the Smart Thermometer. Works great under 4.0, but it crashes under 5.0. And clearly, well, I don't know, clearly it seems like there's some change in the API that's getting tripped up, but it's not obvious to me. And I'm, as has been suggested, that I find a minimal case to cause it. And I'm having a hard time finding a minimal case to cause it, but I'm working on that. So keep working through it. But I'm concerned that there may be several other the PyPortal demos will have the same fate because they're very similar in structure to the way the ones with the graphics helper libraries. So hopefully can straighten it out.
Are you going to be around for In the Weeds? We can talk about this.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And then I'll be off for the next 2 weeks, or off the meetings, but I'll be on and offline. But some serious grandpa duties coming up the next couple of weeks.
Excellent.
And just on a personal note, I posted a little link over and off topic for anybody who's interested about the project I've been working on for the last 12 years. It's a space thing, and it's finally come to an end. And its end really begins my full retirement, which I'm really looking forward to. But it was a fun project, so take a look if you're interested.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yep.
All right, let's loop back to Hierophect.
Whew. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had my first Mac crash in like 5 years. I think it was Discord. This program really doesn't like my computer. But anyway, I have been in kind of the weeds on UART this week. Still trying to puzzle through that, lining up kind of the expectations of how and possibly some IRQ stuff. So it's been a little bit of a mess, but Dan and I have had the chance to talk. I've had the chance to talk to some other folks with some STM32 experience in the local Boston area. And in general, I think it'll probably have some continuing use for other stuff that's related to interrupt servicing for the remainder of the STM32 port and possibly other ports as well. Yeah, hoping to wrap that up pretty soon and move on to PWM so that we can get some more library support going. But for now, just trying to get to the bottom of some of these business bugs that we've had. So that's it for me.
Excellent. Thank you. And that is status updates. So next up is In the Weeds. This is an opportunity to have more long-form discussions about any questions anybody might have, things they want to talk about, or something that is discovered in status updates that makes more sense in the Weeds, which we found one. So I will kick it over to Jerry and Scott to discuss the group already used error.
Yeah, so that is a check that I added in 5x. Basically, the group objects are doing more tracking about where they're located and stuff, so I had to make sure that they were only located once on the screen. And so this error is when a group gets added to something, we keep track of whether it's been added to something or not, and then if it's added a second time, then it will do this problem. It's possible there's a bug around that tracking, but this is the first time I've heard of it. So what you should look out for in the demo is just like if you're adding the same group to another group twice, accidentally or otherwise.
Okay, yeah, that's sort of, I sort of, that's what I was looking for, but it hasn't jumped out at me yet that that's what's happening. So but that's great. I'll dig into it some more. And or Brent, if you're on and you want to look up, but like I said, it just didn't jump out at me what was wrong. Also, those demos also call wait for frame and things like that, but those are easy fixes.
Right.
But okay, well, I'll keep poking. I'm trying to, it's somewhere buried in the little helper script, helper library, because it doesn't happen. I tried to, force it, just in a simple case, and I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, all of the basic display.io demos work fine on 5.0, the ones that Carter put out. But okay, I'll.
Which guide is that? That's the thermometer.
It's the smart thermometer.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
Okay, you see if it jumps out at you. If you can just point me in the direction of where you think a problem might be, that might save me a lot of.
Yeah, I'll take a look right now.
All right, thanks.
All right. I haven't seen any other in the weeds topics, so I think we will go ahead and wrap up. This has been the CircuitPython weekly for October 21st, 2019. We are here every week typically on Mondays for at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. For this meeting, it is held on Discord. Again, if you are listening to this later and you would like to join us, go to adafru.it/discord. And you can either join us for the meetings or you can join us all week. This meeting will, in theory, be posted to YouTube and podcast services. I want to thank everyone who participated, and I want to thank everyone in our community who has joined us recently, who's been with us forever. Thank you to all of us. You make this project what it is. And without you, we would just be code. Instead, we are Code Plus community, which is amazing. So thank you, everyone, and we will see you next week.
Katney?